He's asked, are you expecting a recession? No president on earth would answer this question with anything other than no. But Donald Trump is like, because he's been in boardroom meetings, he's been in like, closed door secret meetings where the oligarchs are like, hey, yeah, we're going to deliberately try to crash the economy because we want more money. He, in his head, he's like, well, yeah, we do, but I can't say that.
Because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time. It takes a little time.
You're giving Trump too much credit. It's not about giving Trump credit. Trump has nothing to do with any of this. He's just the front man, okay? He's literally just like the guy, the face that got elected, okay? The deliberate, why not just say it then? Because if Donald Trump just confidently said, we're trying to cause a recession in order to enrich 5 people, it would decrease his popularity in the eyes of the American people. That's it. Like that. This has nothing to do with Trump being smart or a strategist. And also, this is not a high-level strategy, okay? Deliberately creating a recession in order to enrich a small group of people. This isn't like, you don't have to be 200 IQ to pull this off.
But I think it should be great for us.
Steve, he didn't pish-posh the idea of a recession. If a recession happens on his watch this year after all of the grand economic promises he made, I take it that would not be a good thing.
Well, look, I think that, I'm looking at those stock market numbers right now, and they're pretty bad. This is a big sell-off. Here's what I would say, John. I think 80 to 90% of what Trump wants to do on the economy is very positive. I think the DOGE efficiency efforts are great. I think, reducing the tax rates and making his tax cuts permanent are fantastic. I like the idea of producing more oil and gas, deregulating the economy. The problem I see is that Trump has sort of led with this whole tariff barrage. And I think it's very unsettling to markets. And it's sort of the one thing that Trump is doing that's probably not, especially in the short term, healthy for the economy. So if I were President Trump in the White House, I would kind of shift and move back to the kinds of things that really will help the economy grow both in the short and long term.
All right, so let's put the big board up just so that folks at home can really see.
Remember, this whole deliberately cause a recession bit, this only makes money for a really small group of people. Not the 1%, not the 0.1%, not even the 0.01%. We're literally talking about the elites. This strategy, this deliberate causing economic harm to benefits, it's literally like a few hundred people. I don't even know. It's not a large number of people. So what has happened here, and what is currently happening, what is causing unrest, is that overwhelmingly very wealthy people vote Republican because they're evil. That's why they're wealthy. That's what Marx wrote. That's why read Das Kapital, and it's like it's just rich people bad over and over and over again. It really drives the point home. Those people who voted for Trump did so because they thought, correctly, that Donald Trump would fuck over poor people to their benefit. The problem is they're not actually in the inner circle. They thought they were, but they're not. They don't benefit from anything that drives down stock prices. They don't have enough money to engage in rapid asset accumulation after a recession. We're talking about people who are worth a few million. Now, a few million's a lot of money, but it's not enough money that in the middle of a recession, you can start buying up defunct businesses, private equity shit, consume. It's enough money that you're, fine during a recession. You're not a billionaire. Exactly. So a lot of these guys are kind of confused. They're like, whoa, hold on. I thought we were just going to go make the stock market go to the moon, I thought we were going to, drive down wages. I thought we were going to legalize the unrestricted child labor in a bunch of states. I thought we were going to do stuff that improved our portfolios. What are you talking about? These tariffs, they don't help them.
This number. We're down more than 700 points now, losing a lot of the value that was built up since Trump became president. Robert, you could try to turn the supertanker around, but if you run it into the rocks while you're doing that, that would seem to me to be a problem.
So, John, if this was the Biden administration, my pal Steve would be using the terms chaotic, unreliable, wishy-washy, uncertainty, volatile, and I could go on. Listen, Steve and I and you, John, and all of us, we were all nervous at year-end on long-tail inflation. None of us was really nervous about a recession. We actually thought with the possibility of Trump tax cuts, we thought with oil coming down, with regulation going down, we actually thought there would be, probably long-term inflation. We think tariffs is somewhat inflationary. Both Steve and I, again, were not for across-the-board tariffs. We were for using it more as a blunt instrument, doing it on steel, do it on panels, do it on tires. This approach, the administration it's an unforced error. There is no reason that a lot of economists are talking about a recession now. And they are, because trade wars. We're starting to lose jobs, specifically in the government sector. You had the Atlanta Fed bring down GDP to negative. And the concern, if Steve and I are part right and President Trump is part right, we'll start talking about stagflation, and that is all world bad. So I'm hoping that they listen to Steve and they kind of reverse this trend of trade wars and 25% and putting it back and putting
me when the president does the thing that he campaigned on doing. Devastating, right?
it on, and now you have Canada not backing off and China not backing off. I just think this is an incredibly unforced error.
And in terms of the trade war, where it may go from here, the incoming new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, had this to say about tariffs. Listen here.
We didn't ask for this fight, but Canadians are always ready.
Yeah, keep in mind, this is on Fox.
So the Americans, they should make no mistake, in trade as in hockey, Canada will win.
You know, when you live in Canada, and I know because I grew up there, everything's a hockey analogy. But he's an economist. He's also a former governor of the Bank of Canada. He knows about this stuff, Steve.
You know.
By the way, earlier on Twitter, I can't find it now, but I found, I think it was the S&P 500 tracking after each president's inauguration. So you can see like Obama, Trump's first term, Biden, and then Trump's second term, where it's the only one that went down. You know, can anyone find that? Specifically, I don't know if the S&P or GDP or whatever.
Hawk in terms of really getting tough with China, and I know the president as well, and that makes sense to me. I mean, China is a real danger to America in terms of their military buildup, in terms of their predatory trade practices and economic practices. They lie, they cheat, they steal. I would focus on China, John. I don't quite understand why we're engaging in Canada in this combative way right now. I do think if Trump could really concentrate on getting the Trump tax cut made permanent, I like the idea of that 15% rate reduction. I think that would be a big stimulus to the economy. You know, Trump a couple of days ago said, you know, we may need some short-term pain for some long-term gain. The problem is the economy's in some trouble right now. Robert is right. And therefore, you don't want to impose short-term pain right now. You want to do things that are going to stimulate the economy, like deregulation and tax cuts.
So, Robert finishes off here. What about what Steve just said? You know, focus on China, don't focus.
The copium is crazy. Yeah, but think about it. Like, what would you say? These guys, it is their job to praise Trump. They are told that. It's not like you get to have an opinion here, right? So how do you positively frame this? The way these guys are talking shows they're not even in the group. No, these people aren't in the in-group. Also, the people who watch this aren't in the in-group. Fox News, again, the in-group is like 5 people, you know? The in-group is like 5 people. It's, they have to find ways to construct this. Here we go. Okay, this isn't the exact chart that I was looking at, but it's still really funny.
Focus on our partners in the USMCA.
Hold on, finish the video.
Well, John, you and I and Sandra, I mean, when USMCA came forward, that was one of the biggest things I was supportive of with the prior Trump administration. The idea that we're going back on something he applauded as one of his biggest signature policies makes no sense. So I'm with Steve. Focus on China.
Right, that's great. Okay, dipshit. Look at this. Good Lord. There's Trump's second term, the blue line here, minus 7.8%. Absolutely phenomenal right down here. And then here's Trump 1 and Biden right out the gate. Guys, we are literally less than 2 months in. Less than 2 months in. We're so... Hey, listen, if inflation stays low, that might be best case scenario for us. You know, as long as the stock market keeps crashing. Better than stagflation, right? I'd rather like deflationary recession than inflationary recession, in my humble opinion. I mean, to an extent, they're both pretty bad, I guess. I just want to be able to eat. Don't be greedy. Wall Street keeps shaking because of tariffs. After jumping to a big early gain on an encouraging inflation update, the stock market lost all of it after other countries announced their retaliations following Trump's latest escalation in his trade war. Dude, I'm not even caught up in all this shit, man. So, okay, it was announced that inflation cooled. Okay, all right. as much of an accelerationist as I've become, like, all right, I'm not gonna, all right, okay. Some people were